You're a native of Laramie. You know quite well that one of the most important topics on the mind of people in Laramie, Wyoming is what are you doing with our university in terms of funding the University of Wyoming? In mid-January, there was talk and conversation about cutting $40 million from the state of Wyoming, University of Wyoming budget. The Freedom Caucus, it was claimed in the title of one article, the Freedom Caucus is playing games with the budget. This particular authoring came from Representative Ken Chestick of Albany County, and Representative Chestick spoke about there was no need to cut the budget. Governor Gordon put forth a full-funded, balanced budget, and by the estimation of himself and others, that's the way we should fund it. Your opinion?
This is the biggest budget in our state history. It's a biennium budget. And what we've done and what we see is every time the governor gets up there and talks, he says that all these things are essential. And we don't have a balanced budget, and I'll tell you why, is because the state and the counties have over-collected $9.1 billion over the last 6 years from the folks. So that's not a balanced budget, right?
We've taken more?
Taken in more. Taken in a lot more.
That's where that rainy day fund comes from?
Yeah, something like that, yeah. So you got to wonder what's really going on here. But bottom line is one of the reasons it appears that during COVID that there were the restrictions put on the folks and their liberties is to get that ARPA money, the COVID money that was associated with it. Well, that was roughly $6 to $7 billion that we got over the last 5 years. Well, one of the things we did with that money is we grew government, right? So, and just to remind the folks out there, we have the largest state government per capita in the nation. 1 out of every 4 employees is government, in the state. And, is that necessary or not? I don't know. But I think we got to take a look at what are the essential and non-essential requirements of government. But now that the ARPA money is drying up, is that a lot of these government positions that were created now are all of a sudden deemed essential, or they weren't essential before, so why are they essential now? And there is no question in my mind that if you look at if you look at our total GDP, of that, roughly 34 to 35% of our GDP it evolves from government. That tells you how socialistic the state's becoming. Okay, when government is that much of a part of our GDP. So we do know that government is huge in this state. So bottom line is we need to start looking at cuts of the government. And it's like, what do we really need to do here? So the $40 million here at UW, that's only 6% of the revenue stream. There's all sorts of revenue streams that come into UW, whether it's tuition, federal, all these other state, all these other things that are coming in. So I don't, and of course, that residency, or I guess actual people who are here, students attending in person, is down. Graduation rates haven't gone through the roof or anything like that. There's really been no marked increase in that. So, again, 6%, I mean, that's really not that much in my mind.
Wyoming Public Radio reported on January 20th, President Ed Seidel from the University of Wyoming, in his last year as president, mind you, the letter issued to staff, faculty, and students was an email that suggested that 160 full-time employees could be cut if this 40 million proposition is realized. As a leader of the state, do you have expectation of the leader of the University of Wyoming making over $300,000 annually to come up with maybe alternatives that might supersede employee consideration first?
Absolutely. I think what we saw, and I think a bellwether here, is we heard everybody cry wolf on this 25% residential property tax cut. Well, we still have all of our services. What it's forcing people to do, what it's forcing government entities to do, is rechannel, right? Rechannel some of this money. Even if we got rid of residential property tax altogether, we could easily fare that. We could. We got plenty of money to do it. I mean, we made $1.86 billion in interest alone last year on the $34 billion we got in the bank. So residential property tax is roughly about $650 million annually. It's only 3% of our total revenue that comes into the state. And in interest alone, we could pay that 3 times over. You know, so what we're seeing here is a lack of a will to rechannel, right? To rechannel money. We've got all these automatic things set up right now. And, you know, UW, I mean, this is a land grant institution. And some of the curricula that's being taught here, I'm not on board with one bit. And you know, it's let's get back to what the university is supposed to be doing. Let's get back to okay, how many professors, how many instructors do we actually need to do this and make this happen? You know, what are the nice to haves? What are the need to haves? And because the financial trajectory that we're on in this state right now is completely unsustainable. I mean, yeah, we'll get away with it for a while. But I tell you, where we're going with the increase in the spending, and I mean, it is just unbelievable. And the thing is we have never done, since 1989, a full-blown statewide budgetary audit. So we really don't know how much money it takes to run this state. And UW part of that. You know, it's like, what do we really need to do here? So any time in the past, as a Marine Corps officer, anytime I put a staff together, it's always been a lot smaller than my predecessor staff. It's always been a lot more streamlined. And again, these are Marine officers that I've replaced. And it's always been far more efficient. Because, see, I'm a believer that leadership is not trust but verify, like you always hear around the state. You know, if you have to verify what these people are doing, then it's like, why in the world are they in there in the first place? Mine is trust and empower. And it's like, you know what? There's a million ways to skin the cat. Right? And if I trust that person, I'm going to put them in that spot. I define the objective. I define the time constraints and the fiscal constraints, and I say go. And as long as it's done ethically and morally, good to go, you know? But that's what it does. And the thing is that brings so much out of people, you know, when you empower them. You know, it's just amazing what's gone on, you know, in my career. So the thing is the nepotism, the cronyism, the establishmentism in Wyoming is rampant. You know, and that's one thing that we're really going to have to break that paradigm.